Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Urban Economic Empowerment Show. So it's a little early. I didn't make the show last night. I was um I was in a community meeting. I was in a meeting discussing an actual project. So I just thought I'd check in this morning. I saw Ujau's post and said, "Hey, we need to start having these conversations about what's going on." And I agree that we should, and it should be serious. I can share with you all what I'm doing on the ground and how we're moving here in the space that we are in. But before I go there, I can definitely share that um, if you have never put a plan together for um, a group of people, that it definitely starts in a particular way. And if you don't already know what's available, what resources are available, you may want to start to look into what's there, what's not there, right? So I'll share my screen in a second and I'll share with you how you can actually approach how to assess your own situation and how to train maybe your household, maybe your circle of friends, because I think that one of our concerns is we don't really know where to start or what to do or what we should even be thinking about. How should we even approach it, let alone doing the research and having a concern of what's going on? We're kind of a little lost because we've just kind of been participating along the way. And so when there seems to be a breakdown in what appeared to be normal in these recent years, we kind of we shy away from the conversation because we don't have anything to contribute in reference to what's next, right? So you should kind of be asking yourself, starting in your immediate home, what is next? What's your preparation? How do you prepare? And I believe that this format that we have can speak to not just um your community, but it actually definitely can kind of help you outline some information within your own household. So, what I'm going to do, I am going to share my screen. I'll share my screen and we'll go from there. And I have a little time as Chris comes on and add to the conversation. I have a little time to kind of visit with this topic, and then if anybody has some comments or concerns, you can come on. But it's very structured, right? And so I'm going to share where you need to kind of focus your attention to start, if you haven't already, on what are some things that you need to kind of tap into, or what do you need to think about? How do you actually put that together? So I think that sometimes we put the cart before the horse, and for some people you may be just a little behind on exactly what you should be doing. So I'm gonna help you out, and I'll just share how we are approaching it, or how I've approached it. Okay, now for some people, you get a little excited and you you're looking for end results when you should actually just be in planning stages, and your planning just may be behind. But it's okay. It's okay if you're behind, because There's always a way. So let me get this document so I can share it. Hey, peace, power, and profit. What's up, Mika? And anyone else that's watching. I have a technician coming out about this internet because it's been tripping off and on for some reason, and I can't have that because I have class. I don't have time to be playing with this. Okay, so let me see if I can. I don't think I can share from my phone, so I have to actually share from my desktop. So let me get this internet popping. I actually should have had this document already ready to go, but it's okay. Hold on. All right. So I know many of you some of you all probably tuning in from Garfish's channel. Garfish not here, so don't start asking me any questions about Israelites and things of that nature, okay? Because I have no clue. Oh gosh. All right, almost got it up. So bear with us, sister, just for a few seconds. And I'll get it rocking and rolling. Can you hear me fine, Mika? Mika's supporter. This thing is out of control. Let me see if I can do it on my iPad. Picked the wrong day to do this because internet on this side it's fucking crazy. All right, I'm gonna share really quick. No, let me see if I can get it up on my iPad. Get it rocking and rolling because I just wanna this and this is gonna sound so elementary, but guess what? The brightest person usually forget how to map out and create a solution or determine how solution works. So I have a meeting in about 45 minutes and we we're actually getting ready to we're getting ready to galvanize. We'll start some marketing around a plan. And I could tell you that if we had started the plan last year when we first talked about it, we would be so much far along. But you have folks who they take their time on coming aboard, and so you have to wait for folk. Okay, all right. I think I got my screen sharing. Let's see if you can see my screen. So we're doing something called capacity building, and you could do it, like I said, within your own home, and you could do it for your community. So, and I thought that this handout is very helpful with communicating how where you should start. A lot of people talk about community, and I wonder sometimes if you're even starting an initiative in your community and the conversations around those. This is so many needs, and so that pops out a lot. Okay, this man, it's not sharing it, is it? It's not sharing yet. Darn it, man. I really want to share this info with you all, but I want to be able to show it. Some people are visual learners, and if I could show it, all right, here we go. I finally got it up. All right, so this is a capacity building idea, right? It's building community strength through shared visions and actions. And like I said, this could really be used towards your household, and it could also be used out in your community. So here's the things, some of the ideas that we're going to go over. You can look at it as a retreat. So I'm going to have a mini retreat with you all here online. Right. but I'm just gonna share how you can unfold and come up with a plan to help your situation. I don't want to start speaking directly to what's going on absolutely yet, because I want you to have an idea of what you're talking about, and do you know your needs and how to address those needs based on all of the different administrative changes, whether it's federal, it could be county, city, parish, within your local community. um do you know? So we have to start here. I'm gonna skip this little icebreaker. So let's start here. Asset mapping. So one of the first things you need to do is decide. Let me make this larger. What are your assets in your community as it relates to healthcare, education, natural resources, faith-based location, businesses, cultural history? Some people may add to this list. What do you already have available in your community? Because at this point, you need to be identifying a need, right? What is the need? We all saying that we need resources. We need businesses. We need grocery stores. We need nutritionist food. We need workforce development. We need jobs. But what do you already have that's available that you don't, your need doesn't cross paths, and they may have availability in the workforce, but you're saying you have a workforce need? These are the type of statistics you're going to get weaned out, right? They're going to say you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what's available already in your community. And you what about that need? Case in point, the DBE program, which was a certification program for the government in your state, they have recently decertified everyone in here in the Carolinas, and you have to recertify. And one of the categories is that you have to create a narrative. You have to explain to them why your business is disadvantaged. Why, how, what makes you socially disadvantaged? What makes you financially disadvantage, right? Economically and socially, right? That what about your business? And now I look at that, that's twofold. You can have, they can uh disqualify you and say you're ineligible because maybe you don't have the competence to run a business or have the proper business structure. So they may start looking at how your business is structured, and do you understand how to make money? Can you manage people? Can you manage business? Do you understand the logistics around your business? Right? So they're looking for you to write that out. Okay, explain to me why. And then the second piece, do you have the financial backing? They may start looking at your business credit score. They may start looking at you personally. Can you sustain it? If you get a contract, do you have the potential to get the credit base to sustain once you get the contract? Because usually you don't get paid for 30 days later, right? And so that's just kind of an example. And so you have to understand what you need to have and what you need to do to get access to that particular resource. Same thing in reference to healthcare. When we talk about decreasing those benefits, right now we in a shutdown. That means that we just received a memo about TRICARE and some of the resources that are not available for those who receive that. Right? Government shutdown means nothing's going out of the purse. And so if that is the case, whatever you're operating on right now is what you're going to have to sustain with until it's resolved. Now, some folks are running around as if it's not a big deal, probably because they're not really paying attention to how it really will impact them personally. But at some point, you will be impacted, right? Educational, we know, identifying what schools are still open, what's available, where can you go and get the best bang for your buck or the least expensive, you not going into debt. You know, now with student loans, they come and see about your tax returns. And even if you, and the 2026 is already on standby for recoupment. So if you are in student loan debt, you may want to be communicating with these Department of Educations and these folks who's responsible. If you receive letters in the mail, please do not ignore. They are going to come after your finances. Either they're going to tap into your wages directly and send you a notice and levy, or they're going to tap into your refunds if you actually receive it. And this could be and this could be down. I wouldn't be surprised if the states, if they start encouraging the states to help them out. And so we already know what the federal is doing on that end. So if you have young adults and they are attending college, what is your recommendation to you? Are they on scholarship? Do they understand funding sources? Do they have a journey of ensuring that they won't accumulate debt, or maybe they accumulate the minimum, or we just selecting places to enroll and have no clue how to pay, because we know generations before us, they've allowed you to get a Pell Grant or student loans that will cover the basis. Those opportunities will soon, if they haven't already depleted, if they haven't already kicked you out of the program, good luck. There's a possibility, and if you are receiving some of those benefits, it's not going to cover the entire balance. I know in some states they have froze the tuition rate, but it's already high. It's already expensive to attend. So understanding that facet of it as it relates to the children, right? um other books and resources that they're pulling off the shelf. It's funny because my nephew is in a business data class, and I asked him what was he doing, what is actually business data, and to find out business data is nothing but Microsoft Word. So I had a book, I kid you not, I had this class in 1997 in 1997, and I kept the books, the whole Microsoft suite books. I pulled books out. I was like, listen, these directions are out of control and they are not user friendly to a child. So let me give you a book that will help you out. So when they ask you about this, just go to this book and look to see how to do it, because the instructions are horrible, right? That's just an example. um Natural resources, depending on where you are. Here we have a biosphere. Now having a biosphere, uh um that means it's federally ran, and there's only certain things you can do within the distance of that biosphere, right? And so what did that do to the community that's surrounded or near that biosphere? They cannot fish in those waters. So it was cool to say, well, we have a national, biosphere located in the state. But guess what? That took a resource away. That community can't fish in that area or near that biosphere. So they had to go to other locations. That impacts a community, already um a community that's lacking resources, faith based. We have a million of them all over, but guess what? Some of them may be some of them may be looking into, or should be looking into, disaster recovery relief for their life centers that they have. Some of them, I know that they're doing food distribution, but you have to come to the location. What happens if you in an area in transportation, you don't have access to transportation? This is more of our rural areas, so they can't even get to that location, right? So knowing where those places are and having the opportunity to get those resources to a more broader community. And I know some of you balling out of control, right? That's not your issue. Your household can go to the grocery store, pick up what you need, and come back home. But when we talk about the greater community at large, with this shutdown, people not having access to money, somebody coming somewhere to, they're not gonna go silent. They're gonna start breaking into homes. They're gonna start going after everybody else's assets and resources. And so being able to identify what's available and redirecting people to those locations is gonna be important. Business and farms, knowing what's available, what industries is in your community, whether it's highly industrial, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's agricultural, farmland, shopping centers, and then cultural and historical sites, because they're coming in, developing, potential areas. If they're not marked, if those sites are not marked, and you are not protecting those sites, they're gonna build right over them, right? And that's just soft understanding of what's going on, asset mapping, knowing what you have, what's available. If you haven't had that conversation with your kids, like I got two young teenagers with me. They have no clue. One of them was in the actual assessment with me. She's like, what are you all doing?" And so I started to explain to her, and she was like, "Well, did the community not know that there was a need before now? Like, what's going on?" So some young folks are clueless. They don't understand none of it. They are like, "What you mean a need? What do we got to do that for?" Um, who's responsible? They just know that when they come home, they got food on the table, they got gas in their car, and they can get up and they can go whenever they want to. They don't understand that when things shut down, you can't do this, you can't do that, you may not have access to this. They just living, right? So explaining that to a young 19-year-old was interesting. So she sat in and she listened in on those different conversations. So that's asset mapping, knowing what you have and your strengths in the community. Or if you're talking about your household, knowing what is your assets in your household. Do you even have assets? Do you even own? Do you own your home, or do you rent? And if you rent, how is inflation impacting you? Has your rent gone up? Has that tapped into your disposable income? Uh, what about January is coming soon. Many people rent goes up at the beginning of the year. Can you afford it? Are you one of the ones that were, maybe you were living check to check for whatever reason, and now you're affected by the shutdown? You can't pay your rent. I can tell you, I'm in a veteran organization, and we've already started getting calls by folks who are in furlough and don't know if they're going to get back pay. So they can't leverage what the banks are offering in reference to low interest loan. They can't leverage what with their apartment complex or their landlord. That, hey, listen, we in a shutdown. I'm normally check to check. I normally pay my rent on time. I don't have it. I don't have it. We didn't get paid. I'm not sure when we gonna get paid. Will they have that luxury of staying at that location? And as hard as it sounds, we're like, whoa, we can't help everybody. So where do you send them? What resources are available? Do you even know if there's rental assistance resources out there? I think if I have the opportunity, oh no, I have class this evening. But, to come up with a list and, maybe look through your state and find out what rental assistance are available and are out there. I could tell you here in the county, they just passed, they have $4 million that they can use towards housing support, right? And instead of they changed it from rental assistance, they was gonna do 2 million in rental assistance, 2 million to supplies, which means weatherization. They switched it from rental assistance and made it first time home buyers. Well, if somebody is in a shutdown right now, they're not buying any homes. Those people could use rental assistance right now. I thought that was a that was a very missed opportunity. Did they know the government was going to shut down? No. But then, in the same sense, you should have at least split a meal to put towards that rental assistance, and if you wanted to put 2 million towards first time home buyers and 1 million towards supplies, that would have been cool because you're looking after disasters, but then you weren't looking after the people who are here right now. Nobody's gonna be buying a home if they don't have a job. Nobody's gonna be buying a home if they don't have any other economic resources. These are conversations that goes on in your council meetings, that you probably just need to, if you're not into it, just let it play in the background so you can stay in the know. These resources that your state may still have, but the people making the decision for them, they're not impacted, and so they're making decisions on your behalf. And so if you're in a town where there's a lot of governmental federal buildings and a lot of people have federal jobs, well, guess what? Those people right now are on furlough. I just heard that I think Chicago's airport may have shut down because a lot of the airport attendees were federal employees, right? So know what's in your community and find out if those resources are still available, and that if someone or someone in your family and they're having issues, you could be able to guide them to those resources for help. Because when those folks got calling yesterday, I didn't even think about the whole city. We were just focusing in on a particular area, and I did not have that information ready available. And so I just shared with them to start looking for it because I don't have it, and I'm not expected to do it for everybody. I'm just so happen one of the individuals who are working on a project who may know, but don't hold me accountable for your own household. You have to be accountable for your household, right? So that was asset mapping, right? And so once we decided what were the strengths in the community, we started, we got into a breakout session and we started to tackle these themes: environment, emergency preparedness, food security and access, education, job, workforce development, transportation and roads, housing development, and redistricting. And each group had the opportunity to look at what is working as it relates to those categories or those themes. What are the barriers and what are the gaps? You know, based on your own experience or what you know is going on around you, because it's important to know that you can't approach any county council representative or senator and say, hey, my community needs help. And they say, well, what do you need? And you have no clue. You have not done your due diligence, which means so you have to know what is out there and why you don't have access. Example, weatherization. We have South Carolina Office of Resiliency. We dealt with weatherization repairs, home repairs, things of that nature for the seniors. They had received $150 million grant. They did not have applicants, so they reached out to us. Hey, we know you guys are working in the community. Can Do you have anyone who was affected by Hurricane Helena? We have some resources. We could come out and help them with those repairs, right? So we did an event for them. We had 119 people show up. Let me tell you something. With this shutdown, I promise you, if it had happened, if we had did that event after October 1st, we would have had more than 119 people in that building looking for resources. We would have definitely had that. It was overwhelming. They brought 7 representatives out to help out. It was overwhelming. And this was just the housing piece of it. You can't even imagine. We gearing up for food distribution. You can't even imagine the individuals. So yes, you don't think you need to be paying attention to what's going on. It's getting worse and worse, and we are overwhelmed. So I know we are overwhelmed. I can imagine what some of you all are facing in your communities. Then once we've identified those gaps and those barriers, we took dots and we placed it on those areas that we thought that was the 3 top urgent needs. Where do we want to focus? focus first. And I could tell you from that particular event, it was transportation, education, and housing. Transportation, education, and housing. Because they are depleting resources, money, funding into public schools. And we know majority of our households are in public schools. So we're looking at independent, homeschooling, charter schools, those different options that are out there. And coming up with a plan, one of the HBCUs is qualified to accredit a charter school. And so we are looking into working with that HBCU to help with that initiative, right? That's how we rank the priorities. You do the same thing in your household. Where are your needs at? Maybe you have maybe you have some money saved up, and so food is not an issue for you. Maybe you have a farm, you grow your own food. No one's in college, so you're not really worried about the educational component of it. Maybe you have a job, maybe you are affected by the shutdown, you're on furlough, but you got a side hustle, you know how to make money, right? That's cool. Maybe you could freelance with some things. Transportation may not be your problem. Maybe your car doesn't take that much fuel. Maybe you're within distance of department stores and grocery stores. And so you kind of okay for the moment, but it doesn't mean you still don't have to plan, because the way these folks are moving, we don't know what's next, right? So you have to prioritize, right? Then you have to come up with, okay, what is going to be, how are we going to tackle this? What's going to be our means of direction? And so we met last night. It's a small group of us, and we'll be meeting in the next, oh Lord, I'm about to be late. We're meeting in the next 30 minutes on, and we'll be talking about, drafting up this marketable plan um to between time, we're doing an environmental survey, making sure that the land that's acquired is built for, doesn't have any contaminants, it's ideal, and that we won't have any problems once construction starts to go up. And at the same time, simultaneously having a training workshop for workforce development, ensuring that the skill sets needed are there, and that we're using in-house personnel as much as we can while partnering with industry companies to make this happen. In this, at the same time, ensuring that we are identifying those who are in need within the vicinity and making sure they're part of the solution. So again, so we put together this survey because we have to get to the greater part of the community and find out who needs what while constructing this project, and then I inviting in a couple weeks um individuals to the table who can help, who have free resources um that are already still in place to help out. And so I would encourage you, to take those same steps. So this is how I'm going to start off this conversation on what's currently going on, identifying your needs around you, if it's in your household, and how can you approach government or advocate on your behalf. You have to know what the needs are, and if you and then you have to come up with um your plan to addressing those needs, and it needs to be simple. It needs to be measurable. Don't try to save the world. You can't save the state, but you can definitely uh galvanize around just your group and approach it that way. And then maybe you grow your capacity of participants. But before you start inviting people to the table, somebody has to have a plan. And then you can expand and build on that plan. Right now, we just really just got caught slipping. We talk about it a lot. And I'm talking about within your own immediate household, your family. So if you got caught with the shutdown and you were check to check and now you're looking for resources, um, and then within your search, you also need to determine what can you do differently, right? There's some investment opportunities that you can get involved with, so you can be your own lender, start from somewhere, don't have to have $1 million. I mean, I could go into the whole spiel, but I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have time and I have to get out of here. But I just want to kind of put this on your mind. What are your concerns? What are you concerned about the most, and how do you plan? And we know it's possibly they're trying to do a takeover. So you have more in some cities. Y'all have more issues than none. I should put the National Guard on the list, right? ICE on the list, law enforcement. All of these things. So hopefully, you start paying attention and start addressing it even more. I didn't have anybody to talk to, so I couldn't pull out probably more nuggets that I possibly could have shared. Um, but who knows? We'll build on it, and maybe the conversations on the YouTube streets will start being centered around, instead of fussing about who's right and who's wrong. Maybe you'll start talking about what it approaches. A case in point, we have the Major Star Act went before Congress on yesterday at 1 o'clock. And what that is for veterans who medically retired, who had less than 20 years but more than 15 years, to receive concurrent pay with their disability pay and their retirement pay. And once they get disability over 100%, they waive the retirement pay. And so Major Star is for them to get concurrent pay because there's fund retirement that they earn that they took away. And one of the uh one senator from Mississippi rejected the vote, blocked the vote. Like, we were almost there. And so it's crazy because, like, I'm blocking it because I don't know what it is. You know what? It's only been presented for the last 20 years. How do you not know? So I'm a vet. I'm fighting for that uh legislation um in more ways than none. And so those are, when you're trying to get a benefit, or to get Congress to support a cause, you have to have all your facts in the row. You have to have all your information, and you have to have numbers. And so, because we have service organizations with 1 million+ members, we have a voice that's fighting for us. So I'd encourage you. Most people are saying what we can and cannot do. We need numbers. You have to get behind the cause, and you have to push. And that organization puts forth your concerns. What are your critical needs? But you have to have a critical need. And if it's in your local community, then a group of you have to galvanize. And the way you do that, you have to do your due diligence. You have to know what's available. And then you have to say, okay, what's working and what's not working, right? And you do that by coming together, taking some time. There's no tailgating today, okay? Let's take some time and let's put some pen to paper and let's draw it out. You guys are very intelligent. Got to make it happen. And I know sometimes when I'm talking about these things, it's very boring. You don't want to talk about it. Why we have to listen to Mo, But this is not an entertainment. These are not entertainment segments. These are people's lives. And people calling, they need support and need help, but we cannot deplete what we have to support folks we only see one time. And the only time you know us is when your household is in jeopardy. No, we need you at the table before then, once a month at least. Right. So while we out here galvanizing resources and fighting on your behalf, you're going to have to show up so that we can show strength in numbers as well. We cannot just sit up here and we fighting and then there's nobody else behind us. But then as soon as you're in trouble, you calling us and then we're supposed to feel sorry because you got a baby at home or got 2 or 3 kids or, whatever the case may be. We need help too. We need you in the numbers. You may not have know what's going on or how to approach it, but just the mere fact that you're in the room and voicing your opinion or just being present until you understand and learn is enough. And we don't have enough. We don't have enough people galvanizing around the needs, but we know that it actually exists, and therefore we get pushed to the side, and therefore we get this administration. Now, it don't matter to me which side of the coin you on. I could tell you one thing though. There's a side of the coin that's happening right now that actually exists that's tapping into your household and causing havoc. And if it hasn't hit your doorsteps yet, if this shutdown remains, it will. Okay? And on that note, y'all, I'm late for my meeting and I gotta go. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace, power, and profit.